I'm Rebecca Cook with Bella Pilates. We're going to go over some exercises today to mobilize and strengthen your rotator cuff. You may have had an injury to your rotator cuff and it's healed, or maybe you had surgery and you've already seen a physical therapist. I do recommend that you go see your doctor or a physical therapist or ortho if you are having persistent shoulder issues, but this is really to recover and prevent injury. Okay, so we're going to start out today sitting, and we're going to do elevation and depression of the shoulders. So what that means is we're going to lift our shoulders up near our ears, and then we're going to slide them down, and we're going to go as far down as we can, and we'll feel some tightness at the bottom. Inhale, slide and glide up, and exhale, lower down. You want to feel like your shoulder blades are gliding over butter, or maybe they're bars of soap and you're just sliding them down your back. We're going to elevate and exhale, depress. Now you may notice that you're able to get higher on the elevation, or there's more movement, and that's very true. You are going about 30 degrees on your elevation, and you can only depress about 6 to 8 degrees in the shoulder. And let's do one more. All right. So we want to make sure as we're doing that, the shoulder blades in our back are just gliding along that rib cage as best they can. All right, the next one we're going to do is protraction retraction. You can do this standing or sitting, and you'll be able to see that protraction and retraction movement. We're reaching forward with our arms and back, but we're going to do it lying down so you can feel the difference. You have just a little bit of feedback on your back. So we're going to reach our arms up towards the ceiling. You are able to actually bring your palms facing towards your head if that feels a little bit better, or else we have the palms facing one another. We're going to protract the shoulders, which means we're reaching the shoulder blades, the outsides of them, off the mat, and then we're going to exhale, retract. So we're not just going to lay the shoulder blades back down, but we're actually going to draw the insides together a little bit. And then we're going to inhale, reach, and exhale, retract. And inhale, reach, and exhale, retract. Something you want to watch out for. We don't want the shoulders to be lifting up near the ears. We need to keep those away from the ears as we're protracting and retracting. We're getting a lot of movement here. Now, if you've come off of a shoulder injury or it's still a little twingy, you want to make sure that you're working within your range of motion. So if your range of motion is just moving about an inch, that's where you are, and you're going to slowly increase that mobility. Let's do one more. And exhale, retract back. Beautiful. I love how that feels. So the next one we're going to do is football goal slides and flaps. This is going to be on our back once again. Ideally, we have our arms in a football goal position. Some people are able to bring their elbows straight out from their shoulders. It's not ideal that we're way up here. Sometimes we want those elbows to just be a little below the shoulders, and some people need them even a little bit lower than that, okay? So we're going to again lie down on our backs, and we're going to bring our arms here in this football goal position. We're going to really open up the chest here, and this is what is difficult for some people. Some people may feel like they're here with the shoulders forward. If you need to prop up your head because your neck is strained, you might need to put a pillow underneath that head. You're going to inhale, deep breath, and we're going to just slide the arms up and slide the arms down on your exhale. So we're really trying to hit all of those muscle fibers around the shoulders. We're opening up the chest and the pectoral muscles as we slide and move. You can take your time with this movement. Just make sure that you're breathing. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Good. Once you're done with those, bring your elbows a little lower than shoulder height, and we're going to do flaps. So we're going to rotate forward and rotate back. So we're trying to stabilize our upper arm bone by keeping it in the same place, but it's rotating back and forth in that ball and socket joint. And so some people can feel a little impingement as they go forward, and so we don't want to feel impingement. We just want to feel a nice stretch as we go back and forth. Often people feel more stretch here than they do coming forward, because so many of us have those rolled shoulders forward from being on computers, being on our phone, driving a lot in our cars. And exhale, flap that down. So let's talk about how many of these we are going to be doing. When you do this routine, I would rather have you do 4 of everything than not do these exercises at all. Or I'd rather have you do maybe the first 4 exercises and not the last, and then a few days later do the rest of the list. It's more important that you find time that you have available to complete as many of them as possible. Ideally, we're looking to do somewhere between 6 to 12 repetitions of each exercise. So find the time that works in your schedule and get as much mobility as you can. Okay, so now we're going to do this little crossbar exercise. This can be certainly modified if needed. It does not have to come on the diagonal. It could just come from side to side for a while if there is any pain coming diagonally. But we're going to lie down on our backs once again, and we have our shoulder blades tucked under our back. We're going to reach the arms up towards the ceiling, and we're going to slowly rotate the left side up and the right side down. And we're going to come across the body like this, and then back down. It's sort of this motion as if you were bringing it up, and then you were going to put a paddle in the water. Okay, and we're just going to stay on that side. Okay, so again, we want to work up to 6 to 12 of these. And then when you're done, we're going to rotate the other way, and we come across the body and back down. And across the body and back down. So again, you're working within your range of motion, whatever feels good in that shoulder. There we go. And one more. So I'm going to show you some ways that we can progress this exercise. If it feels better to you, you can do underhand position. This is really nice because it externally rotates that upper arm bone, the humerus bone. And so when we do the diagonals, we may feel better doing those. Another thing that you can do is start a figure 8. So you come down and across and down and across. So you're just weaving back and forth, weaving back and forth. Or you can reverse that as well. So if that feels really good, you can add those on or just do one of them. And that is called the crossbar exercise. Okay, the next exercise we're going to grab a ball. Let me get one of my small balls underneath my Cadillac, and we're going to make sure that our head is supported. So we're side lying on the floor or our bed, and what I want to make sure that I'm doing is that I'm right on that shoulder, but I have a lot of space between my shoulder and my ear, okay? You could also use a pillow underneath. Your arm is coming straight out from your shoulder, okay? So that elbow is straight out from your body. And what people will tend to want to do is lean back, but I want you to stay as upright on your side as possible. You're going to take your top hand and you're going to give it just a little pressure to bring that hand down towards the table. Now you will notice that mine are very tight right now. I've been working on gaining some flexibility. Some people might not even be as low as I am. Ideally, we should be able to get close to touching the table. Isn't that amazing? If we could. So we're just kind of holding this stretch. It'll just feel like you're not really pushing hard or anything. You're just giving it a light pressure. Maybe even just the weight of this arm is just resting on that hand. And we're going to hold that for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, just giving it some stretch. Okay, and then let's do the other side. I will tell you, you're going to feel this most likely along the outside of the deltoid. So it's a nice stretch, it's a nice feeling to get that loosened up. Okay, so we're going to side lie on the next side. Make sure that you're nice and stacked. Bring that elbow straight out from the shoulder. And then you're going to use this hand to bring it down. And you can see that there's a huge difference between my right side and my left side. My right side is much lower. I need to make sure to work a little bit more on my left side. I did earlier this year have some strain after I had a surgery. I think my shoulder was a little out of place. And so I had to do some of these exercises, and I've been working more so on my right side and not been really good about in bed turning to both sides and getting both of them stretched. So I will make sure that that's part of my routine. If you have one side that's a little tighter than the other, you can start on that side, do the other side, and then come back to that tighter side. It will give the brain a chance to map what it should be feeling like. And you'll be surprised at how much further you get down. Okay, so that was it for our little stretch there. The next exercise we're going to do are called scapular push-ups. And if you have bad knees, I would suggest you doing this against a wall, okay? And I'll explain it. You can do it standing against a wall, or you can bend over. I have my back a little bit to here, but I'll angle. You can bend over in a flat back to do these scapular push-ups. But if you're able to get on your hands and knees, that's what I'm going to demonstrate today. So we want the hands and the wrists to be right underneath our shoulder blades and our knees to be right underneath our hips, okay? We don't want to be way back here. We want to have them over that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to inhale, press away with our arms, and then we're going to let the shoulder blades come together. We're going to kind of drop into the hands a little bit. Inhale and exhale. So we're pushing away and letting it come in, retracting. This is exactly our protraction and our retraction movement. Protraction and retraction. Now oftentimes you will have someone kind of drop their head as well, so make sure that that head and neck is in alignment as we push away and exhale, drop. Okay, so those are our scapular push-ups, and I like those quite a bit. The next one we're going to do is an external rotation with a band. I have a band that's tied, and unfortunately I could not get this knot out this morning, so we're going to just accommodate and play with this. But you can get these bands on Amazon. You want a pretty light band because your rotator cuff muscles, they are endurance muscles. So they are not to be really heavy bands to strengthen this muscle. They're internal to the shoulder many of them connect underneath the scapula. So you can tie it up to something. I have a Cadillac here, so I would tie it up to this pole typically. But today I'm just going to hold it with my other hand, and in fact I'll hold underhand. So it's a good idea to have your palms up. And what I want you to do, I don't know if you can see very well in my black sweatshirt, but I want my elbows to be slightly to the front of my waist. If they are way back here and I start this rotation out of my hand, what happens is I start using these rhomboid muscles that are in between my shoulder blades and my spine. And so it becomes a back exercise where I'm retracting that scapula or the shoulder blade back. And that's not what I want to do. I want to work the muscles that are internal to my shoulder. And those are our rotator cuff muscles. So what I'm going to do is bring my elbow just in towards the front of my waist. And I'm going to start exhaling, rotating. So if my band was untied and long and it's feeling too hard, I'm going to actually loosen up the resistance a little bit. If you're not feeling enough, you're going to grab in tighter. You would grab in tighter with this hand if it was tied up, okay? So you are guiding how much resistance you're getting. We're trying not to overstrain the wrist. The wrist is aligned with the forearm. And we just do these rotations out. We want to do 12 to 20 repetitions, maybe even 30 down the road, because again, these are endurance muscles, so you need to do high repetitions for this exercise. You can go ahead and change. I'm not going to do all of these because I'm just demonstrating, but we are exhaling, rotating out. You can always pause the video if you are following along at home. There we go. So you may feel like there's definitely one side that's stronger than the other. So how will we strengthen that weak side? Again, we might have to start out doing a certain amount of repetitions on that weak side, doing the strong side, and then coming back to the weak side so we get a little bit more work on it. Okay, I also tell my clients that sometimes it's okay if I'm getting this wide range of motion and then I'm really starting to get tired. I can either loosen up, step away from that band a little bit in order to continue, or I can make smaller ranges of motion. I don't need to strain to try to pull that out to the same position that I've been pulling it out to. Okay, so once you're done with these, we want to do what I call lat pull downs. You could take the same band and tie it to something that's high. It's sometimes a little bit hard in your house. Amazon sells a great product that are bands, and they have a little nugget that you fit over the door. So you close the door and those bands with the handle are connected to your door, and so you can do these lat pull downs. They're not expensive. They're about $20, $25 for this pack, and you can slowly increase weight, and it's labeled in pounds. I just have one band. This is a red band with handles on it. It's attached to the top of my Cadillac to show you here. So we want to have these handles nice and even. We're going to come down into a squat where we're pulling in our core muscles. And we want to have, if possible, the arms in alignment with our spine. So we're reaching up the arms and we're going to pull the elbows back and down. And we're going to release. And if that's not enough weight, we can step back to get more resistance. Or we can step forward if it's too much. We're opening those arms out and down. So here's where we have this sort of depression of the shoulders. I'm drawing my shoulders away from my ears, pulling down those elbows as far as they'll go. And we exhale, just continue there. So you want to do, initially, I would recommend working more endurance than strength, even though strength ultimately is our goal. So having a resistance where you can complete 12 to 20 repetitions, and then moving up to a weight where you're doing 6 to 10 if you're trying to then gain muscle. Okay, so those are a few things. We have one more exercise to do, and that's with small weights. Okay, so these do not have to be big. They can be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 pound weights. That's what I would typically recommend, even if you're a guy, because again, we want to be working in a more endurance mindset for these muscles. Okay, so even though this exercise is not purely for the rotator cuff, we are working our frontal delts. We want to train them. So what we're going to do is we're going to externally rotate our humerus bone. Our palms are forward. We have a slight bend in the elbow. I'll turn to the side here. And we're going to raise them forward and then lower them down. Okay, so I'm going to put the weights down so I can show you something. As you're lifting your arm, I want you to get the sense of the shoulder blade is sinking down your back in order to support that arm. So we have this support in our back to support the shoulder. It's connected, our arm is connected to our back muscles, and that's going to really help in this exercises. A lot of people have been instructed to raise your arms way above 90 degrees. But we're going to go just shy of that 90 degrees so we can really feel the support in our back. So move slowly. You can kind of do a 2 count up, 2 count down. So you're thinking about depressing those shoulders down as you rise. It's almost like when you raise, there's this little gear shifting this way, and then the gear shifts back. So that's going to give you a really good sense of both strengthening and mobility. I hope you enjoyed this series. Again, I'm Rebecca Cook with Bella Pilates.